I'm just going to be honest with you. You've already been clickbaited. It was only 198 trophies. I apologize for the lie, but the rest is true. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to be starting what hopefully will be a new series of me going through sort of a trophy journal. So I've been big on the trophy hunting lately. It's been sort of my side addiction to my general gaming. And I thought, why not just break down my last month in trophy hunting, talk through all the games I was playing, all the trophies I was unlocking, and, give a little review. Was it worth it? Was it not? Was it fun? Was it difficult? Stuff like that. Generally just have a good time reminiscing on the month that was. If you are a trophy hunter, there'll of course be a lot to enjoy here. There'll be plenty of stories of ridiculous things that I had to achieve and time spent that maybe should not have been on activities that maybe weren't the best. But if you're not a trophy hunting person, I think you'll also still have plenty to enjoy here. Because again, at the end of the day, I am just playing games that I like, right? So you can consider this more of just a general gaming journal as well. I'll be approaching it from the angle of here's the stuff I unlocked, but it'll be perfectly listenable as a general update video. So if you all like this series, let me know. Leave a like and generally give me a comment and say, hey, yeah, I'd love to hear more of these, because if it's something you're into, it's something I will do more. Just sounds like a good time. So I have my stack of stuff I've been going off of, and I have all my trophies here off to the right. So you see me glance off. That's me checking the trophy log just to make sure I'm not missing anything obvious, but most of it I'll be able to remember off the top of my head. So let's get into it. The first game that I played right towards the beginning of March actually was Firewatch. And you'll note that this is a sealed copy. I have it digital. I forget. It must have been on PlayStation Plus at some point, or no, honestly, it was probably just when I downloaded it digitally back when it came out in 2016, almost a decade ago. That bummed me out when I realized that. But yes, I played through Firewatch again, and it was actually really cool. So since I had played it, they had added in this list of 5 trophies that they're just random tasks that you have to do in the world. They're sort of like highlighting little subtle things that they added in, or Easter eggs, things like that. Stuff like find a hidden raccoon, or things of that nature. Get stung by a bee. And I think that coincided with when they released a developer commentary. So I've already played Firewatch in the past, as I mentioned. I love Firewatch. I think it's one of the better walking sim games out there, right up there with What Remains of Edith Finch as 2 of the all-time best. And I had never played the developer commentary mode. So I booted it up. I played through the game a second time in developer commentary mode, which was so insightful, so cool. I wish more game studios and developers would do this. In fact, I'm actually going to talk about another game here in a little bit that did do this. But all throughout the world, they had peppered these little, almost like a museum tour, right? Little stations that have cassette tapes. You'd click into a little Walkman, and it would be either, the developers, the audio engineer, the game designers, the writers, the environmental artists, some of the folks from the company that produced the game and funded the game. They had interviews with the voice actors and actresses that were a part of the game. And it was just sharing insight, kind of like behind the scenes, little here's a dumb little problem you didn't think about that we had to solve. And so we did. And it made me really appreciate the care and the attention that went into the world of Firewatch. And it makes you realize that even a game that a lot of people consider very simple, right? Firewatch is not a complicated game, well, mechanically, right? Or systematically. There's not a lot going on relative to a big AAA game. But there's still so many little problems that they had to solve. And it doesn't hurt, and I mentioned this on my podcast that I do, but it doesn't hurt that some of the key developers from Firewatch are Chris Remo, Jake Rodkin, Sean Vanneman. These are folks that I used to listen to all the time way back in the day on the Idle Thumbs podcast, which was one of my favorite podcasts in the mid-2010s. And it's long gone. It's ended. When those folks at Campo Santo got absorbed into Valve to work on stuff like Half-Life Alyx and Dota, they're gone. So they're not doing that show anymore, but it was nice to hear them. It was almost like a reunion podcast in a way. So in terms of the trophies, it was very simple. It was just going and doing those things, you know, finding a hidden tape, getting stung by a bee, using the disposable camera, which was actually really cool. You find a disposable camera, and I'd forgotten about this when I'd initially played it, but when you can take photos of anything in the world, right? All the beautiful environmental art, sunsets, gorgeous vistas, and then I don't want to spoil anything, but those shots come back up later in a really cool and interesting way. So I highly recommend folks check out Firewatch. Trophies are dead easy, but this is the perfect example of trophies incentivizing seeing more than I initially saw. It gave me a greater appreciation. First off, it gave me a reason to go back. It incentivized me to go back, and then it gave me a greater appreciation of the small things hidden throughout the game. So this is a really good example of the value of trophies, right? Of those additional achievements guiding you towards aspects or styles of play you maybe wouldn't have done before. Really, really liked it, which is hugely contrasted by the second game. This is Touch My Katamari. So this is the second game that I really worked through. I've been on a big Vita kick lately. I've been on a backlog kick. You know, many folks may have watched my, plan to complete my trophy backlog. This was on that video. And I was just in the mood to replay a Katamari game. I think you played one Katamari game, you've kind of played them all. They're very similar, and not in a bad way, right? It's just you're rolling up a bunch of different objects, and you start up rolling little thumbtacks and rolling up little erasers, and eventually you're rolling up Game Boys, and then eventually you're rolling up people, and then eventually you're rolling up skyscrapers, and then eventually you're in outer space, right? It is very much what it is. So I went back. I had beaten this game in the past, but I had never taken the time to find all the hidden stuff. So when you beat the game, they hide basically alternative costumes in the levels. So I just did a replay of the game and hunted all those out, found all those. And then after that, they once again hide special items and presents in the world. So you basically play through it 3 times. I played through it twice because I'd already done it once. And it's sort of a completionist run. You're trying to find all those hidden objects and everything. Most of them I was able to pretty easily find on my own. A couple of them I did have to look up. And all in all, it wasn't too bad. But there is one trophy, which, what is it called? The King of Style, and it's actually 2. The King of Style and Fanatic. For collect all the King's fashion items and obtain the ultimate fashion item. So I don't know what was going on in this game. I think maybe they were experimenting with microtransactions in a weird new way. But when you beat a level, you'll get candies, which are the currency in the game. And you'll get maybe 200 candies or so for a pretty complete 5 to 10 minute level where you rolled up most everything. And there's also daily login bonus candies where each day you log in, you'll get 1 candy, then 2 candy, then 4 candies, up to 256 candies per day. That's the max per day. And then every day after that, you'll get 256, 256, 256. But to purchase all of the items, all of the costumes and things in this game, you need something 79,000 candies, basically almost 100,000 candies. And it would take you dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of playing this game to get those naturally. And it would take you quite literally half a year of logging in every day to get them naturally. But you can do a little fancy footwork, log in, open a specific menu, go into your Vita settings, change the day 1 day forward, load back up into the game. You'll get the 256 another time. You go back into your camera settings. So I did that. That is an example of trophies incentivizing terrible, dumb behavior, right? This is where I have no defense for myself. I just admit that I enjoy seeing the list complete, and I'm okay occasionally doing something that is not worth my time. Now, granted, I did this. It took probably 2 hours of moving my clock settings forward. Boom, 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 boom. And I did this while doing other stuff, right? I was talking with my fiance, and we were watching TV shows or Twitch streams. So this was not uniquely carved out of my time, thankfully, because it is a Vita game. But there's no denying that it was ridiculous. But I did it. I now have the 100% complete on this. It's one towards those 36 games that I laid out in my backlog challenge, which if you haven't seen that video, you should go watch it. I'll link it up in the which corner it goes to. And this one is done. Oh, I should also mention Firewatch and Touch My Katamari. Neither of these have platinum trophies. These are both just 100% lists. Next up here is actually the only game that I don't have a physical copy of, although please make a physical copy of this game, half asleep. And that is Melatonin. This is an incredible rhythm game. This was one of my favorite games of the year that it came out, which I think was 2022. I had played it initially on Steam. Yeah, I streamed it and I played it on Steam. And it had finally just now in the middle of March got ported over to PlayStations for the first time. And Melatonin is a rhythm game very, very much in the style of Rhythm Heaven. So if you played Rhythm Heaven Fever or any of the Rhythm Heaven games, you understand the idea of these like short mini scenes where you're sort of doing intuitive button presses that line up with things that you're seeing on screen. And Melatonin has that. It's one of the first games that I've seen that uses that style, which is pretty uncommon. There's not enough Rhythm Heaven alikes. And then it washes it all over in this kind of, dreamy, very kind of like shoegazy, I think a friend of the show, John from Gaming in the Wild, which is another great YouTube channel you should go check out, and a great podcast you should listen to. He referred to it as the aesthetic, like the millennial aesthetic captured in a game, or the 2020s aesthetic captured in a game, which I could not agree with more. It's very of the time, right? It's very the type of aesthetic that coincides with like nice LED light, purple lighting in the background of your Twitch stream, and like maybe one neon sign of some like bowl of ramen or something. It's that type of aesthetic. And the gameplay itself, so good. The music is so catchy. It's so fun and creative. All the mini games are themed around things that this person is dreaming about. And so, it's stuff that is in their lives gamified. So work, or the concept of stress, or money, or love. There's mini games focused around like swiping left and right on an in-game Tinder, or any number of things. And so it came to PlayStation. I really wanted to replay it. I love that game, and I love rhythm games. And I was like, this would be a great one to add to my profile. So, booted it up. We played through it. It's to get everything you basically need to just like perfect every level. So if you hit every button perfectly in time with the music, you get a perfect. You have to do that on all the normal and hard mode charts. I had played through the game already, so it wasn't particularly long to do. It took me a couple of days of playing, like an hour or two here or there. And actually, there's one thing that held it back for a while. When it first released, there's a trophy for beating the tutorial. Perfect the tutorial. The trophy's called Honor Roll. And that one was bugged. You couldn't unlock it. The first thing I did in the game was perfect the tutorial, and it didn't unlock. And that counts as one of the perfects that you need. So I couldn't unlock Honor Roll, which means I couldn't unlock the get all perfect scores. So I had to wait. It was only a week or two, but the developer did go in and patch it. And I was ultimately able to unlock that trophy, finish the game, get all perfects on everything. And yeah, just really great. Really fun game. If you're a little worried that it seems a little too harsh because of the timing of things, like maybe you don't have a great sense of internal rhythm, there are a bunch of nice accessibility options you can use to, add extra visuals to make it more clear and understandable, or, layer in or buff the timing window so you have a little more time, a little more breathing room. Yeah, it's really not too bad. Really fun game, and ended up getting my platinum, which was very cool. I was actually... there's not that many people that have even purchased the game, so this is not saying much. I was the second person on PSN profiles to achieve this platinum. Not the first. I think I was streaming the day that it got patched, but I was the second. So, all right, next up, another Vita game and another replay for me. I've been going back to some like classic indies here, and I've been really enjoying it, honestly. This is taking me back a decade to the games that I was playing back then. But I played through, in one big sitting, Thomas Was Alone. So, if folks have never played Thomas Was Alone before, this is the Vita copy. And Thomas Was Alone is a platformer where you play as just simple colored squares, kind of like Tetris pieces, but it has this incredible narration, and it imbues so much personality into these otherwise simple characters, where you get to know them, you get to know their relationships to one another, the nature of how they move and what their physical limitations are impact their personality and their character development. So there's a character who is the tall, skinny line block from Tetris basically, and he's really good at jumping, and he ends up having a very smug, very self-important attitude, because he feels like, well, I'm the best jumper that there is. So it's actually the story that excels in this puzzle platformer, but the puzzling challenges are good too. I will say that when I went back and played it, it was pretty simple. I feel like puzzling design and platforming design has changed a little bit, or gotten a little more complex in modern days. So I was able to cruise through this one very, very easily in terms of beating all the levels, and it didn't take too long. But this is the other game like Firewatch where there's a developer commentary mode. So there's 100 total levels in this game. And Mike Bithell, the developer, for each individual level gives an overview of something, right? So he's either describing how this level builds into your understanding of concepts the game needs you to know. In some cases, he's talking about the music, working on the project, the development process. Again, so many cool, interesting insights. The only bummer, honestly, was that the audio track for each level plays until you finish the level. And sometimes the level would take me only 15 seconds to solve, but the audio track was a minute and a half. So a lot of times I would get to the end of the level and I would just stand there and listen to his insight. But it was worth it. It was a really cool replay. And to get all the trophies, it's very, very simple. All you have to do is play through everything and then go through. You have to do a couple miscellaneous things, like bounce on a character 100 times, which doesn't take long, and then find all the pickups. So it was just a replay with an eye for pickups. It took 2 or 3 hours. Got 100% of the achievements. Again, no platinum on this one, but again, really nice to be incentivized to go back and play something cool like that. This one will be quick because I've talked about it, I believe, in previous videos, and I didn't play it for too terribly long. But this is Demo the Last Recital. This is a rhythm game. This is actually, I believe, a port of a mobile rhythm game onto the Vita, so it's touch controls. Notes come down to the bottom of the screen, and you have a little fake piano, and you tap the notes as they appear. A lot of piano-themed music, which is kind of unique for a rhythm game. Not too much electronic, but there is a little bit of electronic music in it and stuff like that. This one I had already played in February, I think it was, and I had gone through the entire campaign, beaten it. I had done basically everything there was to do in the main campaign, but there were a couple of trophies for the an after story. It's kind of like a side story, which is basically just more game, more DLC, more. Well, it's not DLC, but more content. It's just you playing more songs with a different story. The way that the game is structured, it has these sort of very light adventure, point and click style sections that you can navigate around in between playing songs. And as you play songs, you'll kind of fill various meters and things in the after story. It's these padlocks. And when you unlock a padlock, you'll get a little extra cutscene or a little extra story, or sometimes you'll be able to explore around and click on the environment to unlock a hidden song. So it's just a little bit of ways to break up just playing song after song after song, which is appreciated. But I just went back and I cleaned up the 2 trophies related to an after story, or the after story, and they didn't take too long. It was a couple hours. I just love this game. It's very, very good. Highly recommend this if you have a Vita. This is the physical edition that Limited Run put out. Yeah, just a little bit of cleanup. I actually am not going to get 100% of the trophies on this one because there's 2 trophies left, both of which require ad hoc multiplayer. So you have to have someone else with a Vita and someone else with this game. So if I'm ever in person with another human being with a Vita, I'll happily get those with them. But even then, it would take a while because I think you have to play every song in the game. So probably not something I'm going to do, not worth the effort. I don't even know if I have many friends that have a Vita in person. And there's no online multiplayer. You have to do it local ad hoc competition. So probably not going to happen. That's okay, though. This is another one with no platinum, and I'm happy to have sort of unlocked everything I can reasonably unlock. This is an interesting one. So this is a game I have a soft spot for. If any of you watched my game room tour, I actually mentioned this game in the game room tour. It is Lumo on the PS4. This is not like the world's greatest game, but it is a fun game, and it's just one of those games that for whatever reason it connected with me. I have a soft spot for it. I think it's because it is so stylistically reminiscent and calling back to older retro like game design sensibilities, but it's not strictly a like modern retro throwback, right? It's not a pixel art, hey, remember this is what Super Nintendo games were like. It is a more modern looking game that is just designed as if it were an older game, which is a little more rare than you might otherwise realize. This is an isometric platformer, and it's very similar to the game Solstice on the NES. So if anyone's ever played Solstice before, you'll be very familiar with this. You're just doing a lot of, it's room by room by room, sort of on like grid-based map, and you're navigating in these rooms trying to, jump over spikes, over obstacles, on moving platforms, all sorts of things. So it's very individual level challenge focused, almost like I was going to say almost like Super Meat Boy, but this is all one big connected map. So you get a sense for it if you look up some footage of it. But I like this game a lot. I played it back in the day. And this is another one that I had put onto my trophy backlog cleanup video. So I went back to Lumo and started chipping away at it. And this one has some very interesting trophies that took me a while to get. So first off, there's a trophy that is focused on these ducks. I'm trying to find the name of it here. Quackers and Duck Hunt. So in kind of the first half of the game, these are a collectible. You'll find these ducks sitting on poisonous swamps, and you have to jump and bounce on them and then bounce, and that'll collect them, but you don't actually collect them properly until you exit the room with that duck having not died. So you have to bounce on the duck, then bounce back to safety and finish navigating the room or retreat to the previous room before it's officially collected. So Quackers was to just get all 32 ducks. It's not particularly taxing. But Duck Hunt requires you to get all 32 of them without dying while holding one, which basically means you have to perfectly collect all 32 of them. And this is entirely missable. You mess up one, you're done. The run is done. So obviously there were a couple instances where I, backed up a save. I think I did make one or two mistakes here or there, but I was able to back up a save, reload things, and collect them all. But that mentality about the trophies is extremely pervasive all throughout Lumo. There's so many missable things where you have to play in such a specific way. Like there are these bonus dungeons that bonus levels that you'll unlock, which you can only unlock using a very missable currency / collectible. And you have to play, and when you unlock a bonus level, you actually fall into a bonus hub world, and you can choose one of 6 bonus levels that match up to the letters extend, EXTEND. There's a trophy for beating the 2 warp zones that are for the letter E before any of the other ones, so you can miss that if you do things in the wrong order. All of the warp zones have time trials where you have to beat them in very strict time limits, and you only get one chance at a warp zone. So if you mess it up, that's it. Missable in that regard. There's a bunch of different collectibles and stuff that you have to constantly be paying attention to, all of which are very missable. And then on top of that, you have to beat the game on what is called old school mode. And this was the last trophy that I got. It's called Old School Days. Complete the game in old school mode. And old school mode is really the reference to that classic design sensibility where you have limited number of lives now. There's no saves, and if you run out of lives, you just die. So you have to play through the game a second time and basically do extremely well. And there's a couple of rooms in this game that are very, very stressful. You can find extra lives as you go along, so you're not just limited to the 3 that you start with, but you have to be very particular about every room that you do because you can't afford silly mistakes. It's a little more intimidating than it actually is, but in the end, it was very doable. It was very fun. So because of all that missable stuff, and for reasons beyond that I do not understand, Like almost every trophy in this game is ultra rare. Like almost the entire list is like 1%, 2%, 3%. It's got to be the most like ultra rare game ever. I don't know if it's because other people are just not into it, or maybe I think this was a giveaway on PS Plus at some point, and so maybe just a lot of people own it, but not a lot of people have unlocked all the trophies. But it was really actually really cool to go back and revisit this one. This is a hidden gem. If you are like a PS4 collector, I would definitely say you should be adding Lumo to your collection. It's like it only exists on PS4, and there's a Vita version I think that is a PAL exclusive in terms of physical editions. I think for a while, or maybe still currently, the game was delisted. So it's just, this is one to grab. And a fun game, and it ended up being Platinum 149, which was relevant because my 150th Platinum was The Messenger. Now, this is a little bit of sleight of hand. This is the Special Reserve Physical Edition. This is actually for the Switch version. When I bought it, there wasn't a PS4 version, so I only have the Switch Physical Edition. But someday I actually will probably swap this out for a PS4 one because I'm more, as you can see, I'm a much bigger PS4 collector than I'm a Switch collector. Switch is on the other side of the shelf, you can't see. But I love The Messenger. This was again a replay for me. This is not one that was in my backlog. This is just a game that I wanted to go back and revisit. I have a tradition where every 50 platinum trophies I get, I time the 50th milestone platinum to an indie game that I really love. And so my 50th platinum trophy was Outer Wilds, my favorite game of all time. My 100th platinum trophy was Tunic, another game I really, really love. And so for 150, I wanted to do The Messenger, and I timed it as such. Really cool game. You know, it's very much, again, a retro throwback. I tend to play a lot of these, I guess, because I'm a big fan of retro games. But very much styled after Ninja Gaiden. But the cool, like, twist, like the main mechanic that I feel like they add that really is transformative to the gameplay is the cloud step. So when you attack an enemy or an environmental object or when you get an upgrade, an enemy projectile, you get an extra double jump in midair, and you'll end up stringing those together just like bah, 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 like crazy. Really cool game, great soundtrack, really good soundtrack, and it was a lot of fun to replay this. Now having last year played through Sea of Stars, which is Sabotage Studios' second sophomore game and their more recent game. That is a turn-based RPG, you know, with a lot of love sent in the direction of Chrono Trigger, but it shares the same universe. There are, you know, musical, you know, like themes and things that are consistent between the two. There are locations. It's not like a sequel, but you can tell that they want to build kind of this larger shared universe for their games. And going back to this, there's actually more direct connections to the story of Sea of Stars than I realized when playing The Messenger the first time. Like, I'd forgotten some of these. So they really went in with a lot of attention and care in crafting these two shared worlds. Yeah, The Messenger, very fun. In terms of the actual trophy list, it's pretty straightforward. You have to just beat the game, get all of the collectibles, and there is one trophy there's an area in the game that's like a complete pitch black cave. You know, think of the cave that you navigate through to get to the third gym in Pokemon, right? Where you need Flash. It's like that, where you need a special item that lets you see in this cave, but there's a trophy for doing it without that special item. So you basically have to look up, there's guides and stuff that'll show you what it looks like, what a map of the game is, and then like kind of trust fall blind navigate your way all the way through, doing all the jumps, avoiding all the pits, all the spikes and stuff to get to the end of that area without the unique thing, which was a pretty fun challenge. It wasn't really that hard. It took me maybe, you know, a half an hour of tries to get it, but I thought that was a pretty fun and unique thing that added to the experience. So that was a fun platinum trophy to get. I'd actually never played, there's now a free DLC called Picnic Panic, and as a part of this, I played through that as well so that I would have the 100%. Picnic Panic is really good. It's just more good game. So if you're in the mood for a little extra Messenger, and maybe you played it right on launch and never played the DLC, I do recommend the DLC. It's pretty fun. In terms of trophy list, it's very similar. It's just getting all the collectibles, beating the game. But it's got this whole like tropical island theme, some new enemies, a pretty fun, very creative last boss. That's an interesting throwback. Yeah, just really cool. I was happy to replay The Messenger, and that one was a lot of fun. And funny enough, that's actually the last platinum I got. So everything else we're going to talk about was either a 100% cleanup or stuff I'm currently playing. So the next game I went back to after that was Trover Saves the Universe. I had initially played this. I originally bought this because it's a VR game. If you've never played this before, this is like a comedy platformer that is created by Justin Roiland, who is, his reputation is not stellar these days. And I'm going to be honest with you now in saying I've never actually watched an episode of Rick and Morty. Not really my thing. But I bought this because PlayStation VR was included. It was like kind of a VR platformer. It plays kind of similar-ish to the Astrobot game on VR, and I was just a VR addict, and I loved the idea of a VR platformer, so I played through it in VR. Loved it back then. I actually got the Platinum back then. And then since then, they have added some like free DLC where you can play as like an alternative character, and there's this like little extra side mode. It's like just like a series of mini games with a few extra little collectibles. So it's like 3 trophies. I went in. It took me less than an hour to clean them up. It was just kind of revisiting this new special area. The sense of humor is still not really my thing, and it is more of the same. It's more of those like very long, like people will just not stop talking about like how gross or messed up something is. And it's very much like fourth wall breaking, very looking at the camera, being like, can you believe what you're actually doing? Can you believe how ridiculous this is? Oh my God, it's over the top. So if you're into, if that is your sense of humor, or if you're a big Rick and Morty fan, you'll probably like the extra stuff that they added. But for me, it was very much just like a quick cleanup, and then I moved on. That's actually kind of the case for this next one too. This is a game that I played the year after it came out. This is Deathloop on the PS5. This is another one that I had platinumed back when I first played it. To platinum it, you basically just need to kind of get the true ending and do a couple of side things. It's really not too much. But they did this big overhaul to the game. I think when the game came to Xbox, they did this big update where they added new powers, new abilities, new enemy types. It was just kind of like almost like a mini expansion, but it was provided entirely free as part of the Xbox launch, and then they patched it into the PlayStation version. It's called the Golden Loop update. And as part of that expansion, they basically added like a small handful, like 4 new trophies. It's basically to go get one of like the new special guns and kill one of the visionaries with it. And then you have to, defeat one of the enemies with the new enemy or with a new weapon type and get like one of the new slabs to get new special abilities. So it's just kind of like little trophies that guide you to all the new stuff. This is another one that took me like maybe an hour to go back to and check out. I didn't like continue playing to get everything or like re-destroy all the visionaries, but it was interesting to be back in the world of Deathloop. I liked my time with this. Now, I have never played a Dishonored game before, so I don't know. I think maybe some folks that were big fans of Dishonored by Arcane are a little disappointed in Deathloop, but I like the vibe of it. I like the retro aesthetic, kind of like the no one lives forever spy meets James Bond type vibe. And the time loop mechanic I think was fun. And even though it was a little more restrictive of a game in terms of like being able to take on the visionaries how you wanted to, I enjoyed my time with it. So I was just kind of like a little one night or one morning popping in, seeing what everybody was up to, cleaning up that 100%, getting those trophies and popping it back out. Oof. All right. Then now we're going to get on to a game that I did some cleanup on, but did not actually get the platinum because it's so freaking hard. And that is Super Monkey Ball Banana Splits. So if you've never played this one, this is probably the best Monkey Ball game after the first 2 Monkey Ball games. Like, I highly recommend if you have a Vita, you check out Super Monkey Ball Banana Splits. You can play it with the stick, or if you really want to, you can play it with motion controls. But it is the closest in like design to those originals. It's the closest to that arcadey feel. It's the least clunky of the non-first 2. And the problem is that it is a ridiculously hard game. I would say that this is the hardest Monkey Ball game. I have finished the first 2, and I finished, Banana Blitz? Whatever the one that got ported to PS4 was that was originally on the Wii. I beat that one back on the Wii. But I cannot beat this one. I cannot beat the advanced courses on this. So I've gotten about like I think there's 100 levels, and I've gotten maybe to like the mid 70s, but I just absolutely get bodied. But I've been on a Vita kick. I went back and I played it a little bit, and it just kicked my butt again. I couldn't do it. I actually booted it up initially not to play the stages, but I was looking through my trophy list to see what has online trophies to sort of like preemptively knock out some online trophies and avoid server closures. There is no plans, as far as I know, to close the servers on this game, but it only has one online trophy, and it's just for like registering your score to the online leaderboard. So it literally takes 20 seconds to do it. So I figured, why not just boot it up, get that one done, so I never have to worry about the internet, and I can go clean up the platinum as I want to. And then, of course, since I was already in the game, I was like, well, Monkey Ball rules. It's good as hell. I'm going to go play some. I immediately got bodied. Could not get any further than I had before. But there are a bunch of other trophies that were tied to the Monkey Ball mini games. So if you've never played a Monkey Ball game before, it is, arcade rolling, kind of level based, but there's always these like party games that you can play. The most famous of which is probably Monkey Target, which is kind of like you're trying to land your monkey onto this bullseye that you're sort of floating down, almost like ski jump style. But there's a whole bunch of them. There's like a fake version of billiards, a fake version of bowling, and just a bunch of weird. Some that use like the PlayStation Vita's camera for something called like Pixie Hunt or something. But there's a bunch of trophies tied to doing special activities in those mini games. So I just had a fun couple of hours going through, knocking out a whole bunch of trophies tied to those mini games. A lot of them, again, kind of like Lumo, a lot of them for some reason are pretty rare. There are some ultra rares in there, even though I was able to knock out like 15 of the trophies in like 2 hours. So really not too difficult to go clean up. But now it's actually pretty nice. I'm at the point where the only trophies I have left are all the ones for basically beating the main game in various ways. So it's nice to kind of like focus the remaining trophies down like that, right? I just need to beat the main game, and I think like beat the main game or play the game a bunch with certain monkeys, get all the 1-ups. There's a bunch of stuff that I maybe will get someday. But certainly I'm not going for any more right now. It was just kind of like a little cleanup, dip in, dip out situation. I'd love to get this one someday. And this is a game on my Vita. I'd say this is one of the games that I most often go back to because it's so pick up and play. But it's like a 1% or like a sub 1% platinum trophy. It's very, very difficult. You have to beat the whole game using motion controls and stuff. So like, I don't know that that'll ever happen. We'll try someday, but not right now. This was just like a cleanup of what was possible and a revisit of a game I really like. Another game that I really like, man, I've been Vita crazy. I think it's the 4th or 5th Vita game I've shown. I went back and played some more Lumz Electronic Symphony. So this is if you've never played it before, Lumz is a rhythm game. It's actually a puzzle game with rhythm elements and very light rhythm elements. So it was a lie to call it a rhythm game. It's a puzzle game. You are dropping these squares that come in various formations, that you see in the front, of 2 different colors, and your goal is to drop them in such a way that create a 2x2 square of the same color. When you do, those pieces sort of like fuse together, they lock in place, and then there is a line moving across the screen, like in time with the music that's playing, and when that line crosses over a square, it clears it off, you get points, and the board opens up, right? And so it's very much in the puzzle game style. You're trying to build up a bunch of squares before the line comes. You're trying to construct your squares in such a way where you are going to like create, when one block clears, others will fall down and make new blocks that'll get cleared the next time the line passes, trying to get combos and stuff like that. So I popped this in. I'd already played this a bunch back in the day, and I loved it. I played through the Voyage mode and things like that, but there were some trophies I saw that were tied to the other side modes that I had never really gotten into. The first one that I played through was for a mode called Stopwatch mode, I believe it's called. I'll look it up here. Yeah, so the first one is called Time Stands Still, and it's to erase 30 squares in the stopwatch mode for 30 seconds. Stopwatch mode is just a mode that gives you that amount of time to clear as many squares as you can. And so in this case, you have 30 seconds and you have to clear 30 squares. But you have to be really fast to clear 30 squares. It is hard. I spent probably 2 or 3 hours like just working on getting this one trophy, which was cool because it made me way, way better at Lumines. This is another example of trophies in a game serving a benefit of forcing me to improve at a game I already like. So now I'm even more incentivized to play Lumines, and I am happier to go back because I could do better now than I ever could before. But I was so elated when I unlocked this 30 squares in 30 seconds trophy. I was fist pumping. I was like, yeah, I was so proud. There's actually another trophy for playing the game for 3 total hours in a 24-hour period that I happened to unlock because I was grinding so much for these other trophies and having so much fun playing it. But yeah, I got that time standstill trophy. And then the other one is a trophy called Black Belt, which is for unlocking all 5 of the master modes in this side master mode. It's actually very similar. There's a similar trophy in Res Infinite that I'm spacing on the name on, but it's the same type of deal where the trophy is not for beating every single one of these optional modes. It's for unlocking every single one, which means you only have to beat all of them up to the last one. You don't have to finish the last one. But in this black belt mode, it's sort of like increasing difficulty in terms of expectation and game speed. So at its master zone is the mode. So at zone level 1, you'll have to maybe do 50 squares on a relatively low tempo song. And then it gets up to, I was on zone 3 for a long time, which is 180 squares on a really fast song. Like, it was really difficult. This is another one that I spent like 2 hours trying to get. I was looking up videos of like Lumines strategies, because even after the stopwatch mode, I still needed more tips. And again, another example of a trophy that made me even better at the game, because now I was able to consistently beat that mode like 2 or 3 times, which is very cool. And then Master Zone 4 actually was way easier. It's 240 squares, but you have to do it on a slower tempo song than Zone 3. So you actually have a little more time to process what you're doing, which is nice. But yeah, I unlocked Master Zone 5, and then I just continued to play the game a couple more times to get to level 50 to unlock all the avatars and skins. And so now I have all the trophies in this game. It's another one with no platinum, but I do have 100% of stuff, and I highly recommend this game even if you're not a trophy person, because Lumines is incredible. Basically any version you can play is incredible. Q games are incredible, and I had so much fun playing it. I will continue to play this for sure. And then the last 3 that we're going to talk about here are the ones that I'm currently working on. I'm actually not going to go into this one too much. I'm going to just briefly show it because everyone here has probably played or is playing this. I, too, am playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I am probably about 3/4 of the way through the game at this point. I'm actually not going to go for the platinum and go for everything, because to do everything in this game, you have to play through the game a second time on hard mode. And any game, especially a big RPG like this that necessitates 2 playthroughs, I have too many other games that I want to get to play it back to back like that. Like, my game time is too valuable to give up another 50 hours to replay this a second time. And so what I do is I kind of play through once doing what I want to, which in the case of Rebirth is basically everything. I've been 100%ing every open world, and I'll just leave that second playthrough and that set of trophies for another time. I did the same thing with Final Fantasy 16. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I'm nostalgic about Rebirth and I want to go back to it, that'll be a good incentive, right? That'll be a good reason to go back and replay it, do a new game plus on hard. But I'm not going to do it right now. That said, I've unlocked over half the trophies because they're pretty easy to unlock the first half of them, and I'm loving the game. Very, very good. It's addictive, all that open world stuff. It's quite the contrast from Remake. I wonder if Final Fantasy VII whatever the next one's called, Renew, that's just a guess. I wonder if that one is going to follow in the open world style of this one, or if it's going to be more of a blend of the two, or if they're going to find another way to change up the mechanics of it. I'm not really sure. I'd be curious to see, but it'll be really, really fascinating to get to a point where this whole trilogy is available to play back to back to back as one freaking 400-hour RPG. Yeah, loving my time with that. These other 2 I am doing more like proper traditional trophy hunting on. The first one here is a game that I love, and I'm really happy to be revisiting. This is DJ Maxx Respect. This is actually an import version from Korea, I think, because as far as I know, there is not a North American physical edition of this game. But I've had this game for many years. It came out in 2017. And DJ Maxx Respect is a really cool, just like proper sort of like authentic, tried and true rhythm game. It is just lines coming down. When they hit the bottom, you press buttons on the controller that coordinate to a bunch of music. But there's a huge variety of music. There's tons of rock. There's tons of like almost more classical, lots of like electronic and light R&B, just a huge variety of songs in this game. But this game has so much DLC. There's like 17 DLC packs for this game. If you look on PlayStation profiles at the trophy list, there is like 130 trophies for this game because every DLC pack adds like 3 to 8 trophies. So there's just so much. And a lot of the DLC packs are for other rhythm games that I have played in a lot of cases. So there's stuff from other DJ Maxx games that was not in here. There's stuff from games like Groove Coaster. There's actually a pack of stuff from Demo, which I had just been playing on Vita not that long ago. There's stuff from like Guilty Gear, just a huge variety of stuff. But the DLC is like ridiculously expensive. The exact math I can't really give you because, again, this is an import copy that I'm playing. And so I'm not looking at North American prices. I was looking at the Hong Kong prices for stuff. But the conversion of it was that in some cases you'd spend like $30 for a pack of 20 songs. And I just never wanted to pay that. To get all the DLC, it would be like $400. But it's currently the PlayStation Spring Sale. And as part of the spring sale, a lot of this DLC was discounted crazy, like 80% off. And so I was able to finally buy all the DLC for like $60. It was so much cheaper. And it added like hundreds and hundreds of songs to my library of songs that I can play in this game. So I've just been having so much fun going back and playing like, a handful of songs a day, chipping away at some of the DLC stuff. It's nice because I can play the DLC songs and kind of focus on the DLC trophy lists. And a lot of the main game trophies are basically just like get a 500 max combos, get a bunch of S ranks, play a bunch of songs. And so you're naturally making progress towards the main game by working on the DLC trophy stuff. And so it's just really fun to be going back and playing it. It's also nice for my completion percentage because this is a game that I had unlocked like 7 of the 130 trophies, which was massively bringing down my overall completion percentage. And now I can start to chip that away and move it up, which has been one of the goals that I've been kind of idly working on. But yeah, really good, fun rhythm game. I highly recommend it. And if you're at all interested in playing it, there is a North American digital version you can buy. I just highly recommend that you pick up the DLC on sale for sure. And then the last one that I have been actively working towards, we have Mirror's Edge Catalyst. This is a game that I popped back in because there was a server closure right at the end of 2023 in December. They closed down the servers of this game. And there's 2 trophies in the game that require that you have a server connection to basically like beat a friend's time or something like that. I can look up and see what they were. Actually, I can't because it was a while back, but yeah, you need to, it doesn't take much time, but you have to be able to access the online leaderboards for things to upload a time or compete. And so I went back, I did that back in December to make sure I had those. But then this is also another game that I decided I wanted to clean up. I love Mirror's Edge, so I put it on my backlog video that just came out. And I've gone back and started re-exploring it. And I have to say that in actuality, so when this game first came out, I should give you some history. I am a massive Mirror's Edge fan. Like the first game, one of my favorite games of that generation. I think it's so incredible. I got 1,000 of the 1,000 achievement points when it was on 360, which is where I played it. Love that game. And when Mirror's Edge Catalyst came out, I was a little disappointed because they had moved it to an open world, and I feel like some of the special sauce was lost in Mirror's Edge. The mission design wasn't quite as good. The story was never really why I played Mirror's Edge, but like it really just felt like a bit too much. And I just think that the open world in playing through the main game was kind of a weakness and not a strength. So I think I ultimately gave this like a 3 out of 5 star. Not that it was a bad game, it just didn't live up to my expectations. But going back to my old save file, now I'm just exploring the open world, getting all the collectibles, doing the time trials, and I'm having a lot more fun. I actually think that this game's best moments are in the post game where you're just getting to play kind of more proper Mirror's Edge, There's a lot of these things called dashes in the game, which are like short constructed time trials within the open world. And you have to be pretty precise to get all of them. And so you you end up treating different sections of the city like proper Mirror's Edge levels to try to get like a 1.5 minute time, a 2 minute time. And so that has made me really appreciate this game all that much more. It's actually better than the actual mission structure of the game. And there's tons of collectibles. Of course, you got to get the bags like in the first Mirror's Edge game, but there's also like documents and recordings. There's these items called grid leaks, which I actually just got all of as of the day I'm recording this, which are kind of like the orbs in a Crackdown game. If you've ever played Crackdown, they're just these glowing orbs out in the world, and there's like 350 of them. So you have to collect a ton of them. Thankfully, they're all pretty easy to find, and they're on your minimap. So it's just kind of like open up your minimap, go explore around one of the areas of the city, and find a whole bunch of them. It's actually been really fun. So I'm quite enjoying this. I cleaned up all of the Grid League trophies, like I mentioned. I did all the side quests in the game. And I did all of so the first Mirror's Edge and this one both have trophies that are tied to like very specific strings of actions. So, like jump into a springboard, into a wall run, into a turn, into a jump, into a coil, into a roll. They just want to show you like specific things you can do in sequence. And I did all those. So at this point, all I still have left as I'm working on it are get all of the bags and recordings and get a 3-star in all of those dashes that I mentioned, which is pretty freaking hard. The bags is going to be probably the bags and the recordings is going to be probably the biggest bummer, because I think you do have to replay some of the story missions for those. But who knows? Maybe with my reevaluation of the game's open world, maybe it'll make me appreciate the mission structure more. Or maybe I will be reminded about why I didn't really like this game in the first place. Or I didn't love this game in the first place. I did like the game in the first place. Yeah, it's still good. This game is dirt cheap. So if you don't care about trophies and you just want a good game to add to your PS4 collection, this is still worth adding to your collection. It's very cool. I would recommend that you add the first Mirror's Edge before this one on PS3 or 360, but this is good enough to still be worth adding to your collection. So that's where I'm at. That was my March, and I guess a teeny little bit at the beginning of April. All the trophies I unlocked. Again, 198 trophies. And a bunch of backlog cleanups, some good 100%s, a couple platinums, a milestone platinum. Feeling pretty good about the trophy hunting right now, and just about the gaming. So again, thank you so much for sticking around, watching this whole video. Hopefully you found it fun. Hopefully you did some trophy hunting. I should have suggested that at the beginning while you're doing it. But I really appreciate you sticking through. Let me know again, like I mentioned, if you want to see more videos like this. This could be more like a monthly series, and I'd be happy to do those. Also, I'm thinking about doing something similar for the non-trophy specific games that I'm playing too, because I'm playing other stuff. I'm streaming a lot of retro stuff and playing more other modern games. So maybe we'll do a mixture of both. We'll be like, here's my month in trophy hunting, here's my month in regular games, or splitting them up every other month. We'll see what it is. Let me know what you're interested in. But all that to say, if you enjoyed it, don't be afraid to subscribe and get close-ish to 1,000 subscribers, which would be a pretty nice, satisfying round number to trigger the dopamine centers in my brain, right? I'd be like, 4 digits worth of people say, this is good. So consider that, and keep being awesome, and peace.